Oh boy, this is gonna be fun. This, good denizens of K-intrawebs, is Waku Waku 7. Developed by Sunsoft and published by SNK, Waku Waku 7 is a fighting game that is somewhat difficult to explain. You see, it parodies fighting games, but it also implements long-standing concepts in interesting ways. It pokes fun at various anime stock characters and tropes, but it does so in a light-hearted manner, and although most of these characters could never stand out in a crowd, the fights that they wage are one of a kind. And, to my knowledge, there aren't many other games which manage to toe the line between poking fun at established traditions without outright ripping them off. Actually that wasn't so hard. I suppose I was just overwhelmed by how different this game is from the norm. The first thing that most people notice is how generic the whole game looks. The presentation is great, but it all looks like stuff that you might have seen before. The menus have a cheesy 80s motif, the stages look like stock battle scene locations, and the character designs are extremely straightforward. Aside from the occasional piece of headwear, the fighters aren't that flashy or distracting. No random trinkets or bits of jewelry, detached zipper straps, or obtuse symbols added for the sake of creating an illusion of originality. But that's sort of the point. Furthermore, the characters themselves behave like old-school anime archetypes. There's the hot-blooded shonen hero, always blathering on about justice when it's convenient for him. The bubbly, popular teenage girl with hopes of stardom, although why they went with the ears for her and her friends, I'll never know. The aloof pretty boy with odd powers, the shy demure girl who supposedly doesn't want to fight but nonetheless has the strength to kick your ass like a bad habit, etc, etc. But as I said before, this was all done intentionally. They were made with these vaguely all-encompassing looks in mind, so that the players can see just a bit of their favorite characters from that general time period on the cast. You know, sort of like how the author of Usagi Yojimbo tried to make them all anthropomorphic so that you could sort of see yourself or your friends in the character designs, only due to it being anthropomorphic, the usual drama ensues, but that's besides the point. Using so many different archetypes to make the roster adds a bit of variety as well. And to Sunsoft's credit, they did play around with the characters enough to make them somewhat memorable. In story mode, everyone meets each other at some point in the game, and the dialogue is short but different in almost every meeting. Ryan and Arena in particular have one of the weirdest Ryu-Ken relationships that I've ever seen in a fighting game. They've both got the whole lightning versus fire theme going on, but they spoof two completely different genres, and they both think that they're the main character in their own way. This all-inclusive approach is how they managed to come up with the fundamental moves of the game as well. There are a few distinctions for some characters when it comes to movement. Some characters can hop, others can dash, and one can roll, but they're all performed by double tapping either forward or backwards. But aside from that, it's a melting pot of various fighting game mechanics. There are wire attacks, throw recovery, universal overheads, and the like. A player who gets floored by an opponent can button mash to get up faster, and hold either forward or backwards to roll towards or from the opponent, or hold up to attack them with an overhead attack. On the other hand, a player who manages to knock a player down can pounce on them with up and any attack button. But that's not all. Are you tired of getting knocked into the wall like a cheap ragdoll? Just press a punch or kick button and you can either catch yourself on the wall, or rebound and jump towards the enemy respectively. Are you frustrated with fireball spamming opponents? With the right timing, you can just knock out most of them with a well-timed normal or special move. Although, due to the strange nature of projectiles in this game, some will just absorb others. Do your opponents break every single grab attempt that you make? Then just hit him with the Waku Waku. This titular attack, performed with half circle backwards and heavy kick, is a universal command grab. Let that sink in for a sec. A universal command grab, as in everyone that has one and could theoretically be described as a pseudo-grappler. And it's not as if everyone has one, but they can be broken, like in Slam Masters 2. No. Aside from one fighter, this move is unblockable and generally quite effective. Even the characters who have a blockable will get a trade-off, since theirs can extend halfway across the screen. The only drawback is that the position both players land in usually isn't as advantageous to the attacker as it is to the defender, barring one specific attack. This can all lead to some pretty crazy stuff in a fight, but switching between the different moves and using each character's unique move lists keeps the action from being predictable. However, there is one hangup that I have for the game, and it's a big one. The super meter, or rather how it's used. See, meter builds insanely fast in this game, regardless of whether or not it's set to recharge on its own. And in Versus mode, each player starts out with up to 7 levels of meter. This is a bit of a problem because of how little extra actions cost. Performing a super attack, or Doki Doki attack as they're called in this game, always costs 1 bar, no matter how much damage they can cause. Same thing with activating super mode, which is done by pressing all 4 attack buttons. It acts as a burst for like the first second of use, and then gives your attack a bit more punch afterwards for about 5 seconds or so. Again, only 1 meter. Same thing goes with EX attacks, which are much stronger versions of special moves. Special moves which are as strong as level 1 supers in their own right. And finally, the Hara Hara attack, an unblockable attack, performed by pressing down twice and either 2 punch or 2 kicks, which usually does tons of damage, only costs 1 level, and can be performed after a Waku Waku attack for maximum effectiveness. Although the blaring alarm, massive startup time, and flashing warning in the background are usually really good warnings. This stems from the fact that in story mode, you only get 1 level, and it would hamper the players if they couldn't do everything from the start. So, matches can occasionally go overboard with the supers. This is, admittedly, a bit of a problem in Versus mode. On one hand, it's not enough to undercut the game entirely. Most super attacks can be avoided easily since there's so much room for movement, and Hara Hara attacks tend to leave their users wide open if used rashly. On the other hand, it's fairly easy to combo EX attacks into normal moves, so matches tend to end fairly quickly. Still, Waku Waku 7 is a pretty fun fighter. The game may look like a cosplay convention gone horribly wrong, but it's a sturdy fighter which managed to take a bunch of established mechanics in the genre, twist them towards their own designs, and make them somewhat unique, while preventing them from overriding each other. And although some options are more appealing than others, it's still balanced enough to be a pretty great game.